Alright, this is another video from my channel, and this is Saturday, the day after Black Friday. What a horrible day that is. And I have a guest today. This is my co-worker and buddy Travis.
How's it going?
This week we both went and saw Thor 2, The Dark World. We're going to talk about that today and some upcoming movies. We both enjoyed Thor 2.
It was actually pretty good compared to the first one.
Yeah, I mean the first one was okay, but they definitely improved on this one a lot.
Seems like they made it flow a little better, had a little bit more of a grounded plot line, and not like trying to stuff a whole bunch of information in there at the same time.
Yeah. It was just like kind of like one solid plot that just flowed through the whole movie, and they expanded on a few of the characters a little bit. For example, there's a little bit more of Odin in there.
A bit, yes.
And that Watcher guy that watches the bridge of Asgard.
He actually had a role in it this time.
Yeah, and ever since the first one, I liked that character. I thought he was kind of interesting, kind of cool, and it's just in the first one he seemed to not really have no depth to him. They added just a little bit of depth and a little bit of development for that guy.
And he actually got to, how should I put some character into the movie.
Yeah.
And actually do something.
Yeah, and then Natalie Portman's intern / assistant, I don't know the name of the actress that plays her, but the character's name is Darcy. They did more of her, and I like that a lot. She had like the right amount of comic relief.
Yeah.
It wasn't cheesy. It was just this real witty kind of like one-liners or little phrases or that character would do that added some nice comedy to the movie without making it cheesy.
Yeah. And it seems like they actually tried to give all the characters that were, for the most part, important or actually had a role, try to give them all like an equal amount of screen time, so you actually got to see the story in a whole. And they explained how all the different realms were connected.
Yeah. Whereas in the first one they explained there's like all these different realms, and it kind of jumbled it in the first Thor film. It was just like, there's kind of like this magical space tree from which life comes from, and there's all the realms, and it's just you get kind of confused at that point. But they explained it better in this one, without overwhelming you with the information.
Yeah. And
then if you're planning to go see it. It's doing really well in the theaters.
Yeah. Is it like one of the top box office hits of right now?
Yeah. Until the Hunger Games: Catching Fire came out, it was the top movie.
Yes.
I think now it's down to number 2 spot because a lot of people are going to see Catching Fire. But don't want to give away any spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen Thor 2. But when me and him went, we noticed once the credits started rolling, people started walking out. No, don't do that. Wait till sit there and wait till all the credits go. There's an extra scene. Now, with that extra scene, if you're not too familiar with the Marvel Comics universe, you might not get it. I'm going to just say the scene featured an Infinity Gem. And those of you that, and everyone's seen the Avengers by now.
I hope.
Yeah. If you haven't, it's on DVD, it's on Blu-ray, it's on Netflix.
It's everywhere.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you're too cheap to get on DVD, Blu-ray, or have a Netflix account or a Hulu account, because I'm pretty sure it's on there too. Google on where you can download a illegal copy of it.
We don't condone this, but if you're one of those cheap people,
Yeah, we don't condone illegal downloading. But watch it, and at the end of the Avengers 2, after the credits, you see Thanos. And if you're familiar with comic books in the Marvel Universe, you know Thanos is Marvel's ultimate bad guy. He just wants to conquer worlds and destroy shit. And years ago, it was in the 90s, they did the Infinity War, where Thanos got a hold of all the Infinity Gems, which if you collect all the Infinity Gems, you know, in the Marvel Universe, if you collect them, whoever collects them gets all this limitless power. And, you know, Thanos put them together in a gauntlet and created the Infinity Gauntlet, and he was all powerful, and it took like every hero in the Marvel Universe to stop him. Another thing, good comic book reads, I'm pretty sure. You go to your local comic book shop, look for some of the older Marvel comics on the Infinity War, and maybe if you have like a tablet or a smartphone, you can download an app for various comic book companies, and there's a lot of free comics to read, and there's some that you have to purchase, and there's one app for Marvel Comics, and look for the Infinity War comics there. If there's not a local comic book shop around you. But I don't know if they're gonna. Seeing Thanos at the end credits of the Avengers in the Thor 2: The Dark World, without giving away too much, there's an Infinity Gem. I don't know what that's gonna lead up to, if anything.
Probably another movie or two, or it'll incorporate into another series of, it'll probably be explained in the next Avengers movie. Hopefully. I want to say, but
hopefully it will, because that's a pretty broad story there.
Yes.
But yeah, Thor 2, great movie, and visually, everything looked a lot better than the first Thor film. It was a lot of the first Thor film took place in New Mexico. It's kind of small town desert. There's this one. They're in London when they're on Earth, and then they're in Asgard, and Asgard looked bigger to me.
It did seem a bit bigger, mainly for the fact that they actually had a scene where you got to see most of where it expanded to.
Yeah. Whereas in the first one, it just seemed like Odin's castle and the bridge, and
that was it.
A little area off to the side, and that was it. And this one, you got to see a lot more of it. I like that. And then there was another dimension that the villains in this one were the Dark Elves, and the dimension where they're from was also in the film. And we're also going to talk about some two previews we saw for two upcoming comic book Marvel-based movies. Now, went to see Thor 2, they showed some previews. Two previews they showed were for X-Men Days of Future Past and Captain America the Winter Soldier. But we'll first talk about X-Men Days of Future Past, which seems like it happens after the events of X-Men 3, The Last Stand, and The Wolverine. So it seems like all the hate for X-Men Origins Wolverine, Marvel Films is trying to be like, this doesn't count as one of their movies.
But with the preview, it was hard to pinpoint exactly like what they were doing or about what time period they were in and what they were trying to accomplish. So it's hard to speculate on how it's going to play out and who all is going to be involved in it. Because you got to see a few familiar faces, but for the most part, that was about it.
Now, from what we saw in the preview, there's time travel involved. They're sending a future Wolverine back to some point in the past, and we know it's a future Wolverine because you could see like they did some makeup on Hugh Jackman's face to look a little bit older. He had some gray in his hair, and another way we figured out was, or that we think it's future. You saw Bishop, so Bishop's in this film. At least I think it was Bishop. I mean, it looked like him from like the comic books. You know, it was an X-Men. He's a black dude. You know, long hair. He had the M tattoo on his face, and he had a gun. You kind of just saw him. Like in the preview, you saw like Xavier and Magneto. I'm guessing in the future talking to future Wolverine, because even Magneto and Xavier looked a little bit older.
A bit, yes.
Yeah, and Bishop's just kind of standing there in the back, holding his gun, looking cool. And then you could tell that Wolverine goes into the past because he encounters a younger Xavier, and
they really didn't give a whole lot of information on what is going to be done, but apparently from what they gave, Wolverine has to help guide Xavier from the past to the present time to help him get on the right track of something.
Yeah. And with the title of the film, Days of Future Past, I'm guessing it's inspired by or loosely based off of the X-Men series of the same name that came out in like the late 80s, early 90s. They did a little mini-series called Days of Future Past when they first introduced the character of Bishop, where he came from the future to that present time to prevent the execution of Charles Xavier. And in that comic, I've read a few of those issues. When you went into the future, you know, the only X-Men that were living were Wolverine, Shadowcat, Bishop, I believe Storm, and Magneto. The rest of them were imprisoned or been hunted down or whatever. But read a few of those issues, and one issue that really sticks out to me. I don't know the number of the issue, but the cover was great. It was X-Men Days of Future Past, and the cover had like Wolverine. He looks older. He's got some gray hair. He's leaned up against the wall with a spotlight on him, and he's got his hand like this right here, protecting Shadowcat. And there's a poster behind him on the wall. It has like pictures of X-Men, and it has like Cyclops for X on it, dead, Storm wanted, Wolverine wanted, and so on and so on. It's a really great cover. Just throwing it out there. But yeah, I'm kind of on edge about this film because involving time travel, and that introduces some plot twists that either the director and writer does good or it's going to do terrible. It just depends on how they do it.
That's how a lot of movies are nowadays.
And then this is this one. It brings Bryan Singer back to the X-Men films. He did X-Men, the first two X-Men films. He didn't direct the third one, The Last Stand, because still working on Last Stand, he worked on Superman Returns. And that film, not really a big fan of the last X-Men, The Last Stand either, or Superman Returns. Both those films, But the Wolverine, we've both seen that movie, and that was a good one. And it's out now on DVD. It's available on Netflix. So what I'm about to say, if you haven't seen it yet, your own fault. After the credits in that film, Wolverine's walking to an airport, and all of a sudden he stops. He can't move, and no one else around him is moving. He's like, what the hell's going on? And behind him is Magneto, with his hand stretched out because he's preventing Wolverine from moving. Because Wolverine's got the adamantium bones, and then there comes Xavier on his wheelchair. And you're like, how the hell is Xavier alive? I mean, Jean Grey splattered him into oblivion or whatever, just made him non-existent in The Last Stand.
So we thought.
Yeah. pretty sure, but definitely, hopefully, in this next X-Men film, they explain how Xavier is still alive.
Because, yeah, I would love to know how the fuck that happened.
Exactly. I mean, in the last scene, you saw him when Jean Grey was going all.
I mean, unless he actually did it himself and made it seem like she did it. But at the same time, I would still like to know how he did it.
Yeah.
Or unless Jean didn't actually kill him, and she just did something with him.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta explain it in this next film. And, you know, he tells Wolverine, you know, we gotta get the X-Men back together. There's a great threat coming. And if you pay attention, and if you know the comic books, on the TV screen in the airport, it talks about Trask Industries. In the comic books, those are the ones that invented the Sentinels. Talks about Trask Industries and inventing a weapon to aid mankind in the fight against the mutants. So I'm guessing we're gonna finally see the Sentinels in the X-Men film.
That would be pretty awesome.
It would be. I mean, and with the graphics they got now in movies, they could do the Sentinels really cool. You know, maybe like something like the robots from Pacific Rim.
That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I want to see Wolverine jump on top of the back of a Sentinel and just slash it into shreds. That would be awesome. And then, but yeah, this film, it seems like a really big undertaking and big risk that they're doing with this next X-Men film coming up, because you're involving time travel and you're incorporating some of the other films. It seems like they're incorporating events that happen after X-Men First Class. They're trying to tie everything together and make this really big film, and I hope it's good. Won't know till we see it, but and I'm pretty sure you can find the trailer online. Watch the trailer, you know, search for it here on YouTube, and you know, develop your own thoughts and opinion about it. And the next Marvel film that's coming out is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I'm really excited about this one.
Yeah. One of the parts in the preview is they were in one of the hover jets, and they're all getting ready to jump, and then Captain America just starts to run out of the back, and one of the soldiers is just like, "Did he have a parachute?" And Black Widow's just like, "No, he didn't have a parachute."
Yeah, and that's another thing. We're gonna see Black Widow again in this one. You know, Scarlett Johansson. I love seeing her in a movie because Scarlett Johansson.
Looks like she's gonna have a little bit more of a role in this movie.
Yeah.
Than just being a assassin.
Yeah. And then seems like we're gonna see more of S.H.I.E.L.D. in this one.
Maybe not so much in a bright light, but in a dimmer light.
Yeah. It seems like they borrowed some ideas from the Marvel Civil War, which is one of my favorite miniseries in Marvel Comics. I always brag about that one. It's really well written. But, you know, go out, find it, read it, get trade paperback, something. I highly recommend that one. But in the Marvel Civil War, you had Tony Stark come out and tell the world that he's Iron Man. And Peter Parker came out and told the world that he is Spider-Man. And the government started this Hero Registration Act. And you had two sides. You had the sides that teamed up with Iron Man. And there were the heroes that were like, yeah, we'll tell the world that what superheroes we are. So, you know, in the government, and they would have to register in the government and be government controlled, blah, blah, blah. And you had Captain America who was against that. And he said, you know, that's not American, that's not freedom, that's wrong. You know, the government shouldn't control any and everything. Mm. And you had heroes that sided with him, and it was a really great series. And it seems like they borrowed a bit from that, because in that series, or they might be leading up to it somehow.
They might be.
I don't know, but in that series, Captain America, you know, he went against what the government said, what Shield said, because he didn't find it, he didn't believe it was constitutional or American. And in this film, there's a scene in the previews where he was talking with Shield. I don't remember what they were talking about.
I can't remember all that much either.
Yeah, but Shield had said something to him that he and Captain America didn't like. He was like, "No, that's the government trying to control everything. That's not freedom." Or maybe they're trying. Maybe whoever's directing this movie or wrote it's trying to incorporate something with our modern society here in America, where the whole Patriot Act thing, where the government monitors your internet activity and your cell phone activity or whatever. Maybe they're trying to throw a little bit of that in there. And yeah, but basically, whatever it is, Captain America doesn't like it, and he starts fighting Shield, him and Black Widow. And you seen in the previews that he took down one of their giant airships.
Which looks badass.
Yeah. And then there's what I think is the Winter Soldier, because I've been a fan of Captain America. It was about 2006, 2007. There was a series called The Winter Soldier, which was the backstory of what happened to Bucky, Captain America's World War II sidekick. After Steve Rogers was frozen, Bucky, during the Cold War, got captured by the Soviets, and they made him like this Soviet super soldier, and they called him the Winter Soldier. And years later, Captain America encountered him and brought him to the good side. There was a character in the film that looked just like straight out of that comic book, Bucky the Winter Soldier. But you didn't really see his face. He had like a ninja mask on, but he had like these robotic arms, and you saw the guy. He had a gun. Quick reflexes. Captain America threw his shield at him, and the guy caught the shield.
Yeah.
So obviously that's the.
That'd be an interesting plot to see.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's gonna be Bucky or if it's just something, or they're doing something else. They're just using the idea of the Bucky Winter Soldier character. But this film I'm really excited about. It looks really well, and it seems like it's gonna be like a good action film with a nice plot twist to it, and
a little darker.
Yeah, a little darker than the first one. And I like the idea of Captain America going to get Shield, because he's like, whoa, that's not freedom. That's not the American way, because he's really I've always thought Captain America was a neat character, because here's a guy that was like from the 1940s, and he's frozen, and he wakes up in our time.
It's a big change for him.
Yeah, and not only has technology advanced, but like the government's changed too.
And he's realizing it.
And, his government, was, buy war bonds, help the troops out, that sort of thing, baseball and apple pie.
Hell yeah.
That's the era Steve Rogers is from, and it's different, and he's in a different time now, and he's adjusting. He's learning, hey, this isn't freedom. This isn't the Constitution that he defends. Which add a lot more character development, because I know there's a lot of people out there that kind of think Steve Rogers, Captain America, is a dull character.
He really isn't.
No.
You got to remember, along with him being a super soldier, he was also very smart.
Yeah.
He wasn't your average. I'm a soldier, blah blah blah. I want to shoot things.
Yeah, I mean, you saw in the first film, and they did a real good transition from the comic book to the movie in the first Captain America movie, where here's a guy that the army won't take, because he's
He was scrawny.
He's this little scrawny kid, but he wants to do his part, because he just loves his country so much. He wants to go to Europe and fight Nazis. And the guy, he's really strict in his beliefs. His idea of of freedom in America, and so I think that really makes him a little bit more rounded than some other characters. Yeah. Like,
and at the same time, though, him waking up from the first one and into the Avengers movie and whatnot, he also realizes that a lot of what he was led to believe about the government and how it runs is not true. So he's starting to rethink things about what's right and what's wrong,
and
for a good way, in a good way.
Yeah. And then, with the first Captain America film and the first Avengers film, here's a guy that learns there's a secret government organization called S.H.I.E.L.D. And they fly in these airships above the United States, and they spy and monitor on everyone. That's something that character's not about.
Yeah.
Let people live their lives, and when they do break the law or do something bad, that's when you go after them. And that definitely looks like that's going to be a really good film. And I actually have a little bit higher expectations for Captain America: Winter Soldier than I do X-Men: Days of Future Past.
Just because of how they've done the movies so far.
Yeah.
I mean, if they make it fucking amazing, then, or if they make it freaking amazing, then that's great. But at the same time, if they don't make it as good as people hope for, then it's not really something that lets me down, because it's like, well, they had a lot to play with, so it doesn't surprise me that some stuff wasn't as good as people had hoped for. And then Captain America, they've already got something good going. Let's see if the high expectation to see if they can keep it going.
Yeah. Like I said, the first two X-Men films, that was, Marvel, a few years ago when they started doing these comic book films, Marvel started off with Spider-Man.
And the Hulk.
No, X-Men.
X-Men, yes.
They did the first X-Men movie, and it was good. I think people had some expectations that weren't met. Like, they're like, oh wow, this guy wasn't in the film.
Yeah, true. At the same time, though, they also were trying to not add too many characters in the film.
Yeah.
To make it too much.
Yeah, there's like so many X-Men. Everybody loves Wolverine.
Yeah.
But they have their other favorites too. Like he might like Cyclops. I mean, other than Wolverine, what other X-Men do you like? Just one random one.
I will have to say I do like Gambit.
I mean, he's cool. I'm gonna go with Beast, and we didn't see either of those in the first or the second film.
True.
We didn't.
I mean, you may have heard like somebody mention something about their character.
Yeah.
But you didn't get to see him you didn't get to see Beast till the third and fourth, or till the third film, and also with several other ones.
Yeah, you saw him in First Class, in the third film, and then you've heard and there's little Easter eggs in X-Men 2. Like there's some computer screen that has Gambit's name on it or something.
Yeah.
But you didn't see him until X-Men Origins Wolverine, and they screwed him up in that one.
Yeah,
he really didn't do much.
Yeah.
He just put Wolverine on an airplane and flew Wolverine somewhere.
Besides the whole bar fight, but
yeah.
I mean, he actually has a pretty decent power.
Yeah, and he's a popular X-Man. That a lot of the fans like. And people were disappointed in the first X-Men film, the way they did Rogue. Not true to the comic book character. But come on, in the comic books, Jubilee was the little teenage kid that tagged along with Wolverine and was kind of her father figure. Who would you rather see as, Rogue or Jubilee? I mean, Jubilee pretty much sucks, Ooh, sparklers out of my fingertips.
I mean, if Rogue gets a hold of you and like gets to actually like grab you, you're fucked.
Yeah, I mean, that's more useful than sparklers. Jubilee's only good on 4th of July.
Oh, you need all these fireworks lit?
Yeah, he's useful one day out of the year.
Two. New Year's.
New Year's, yeah. Then, so, I personally, I like the first X-Men film. Yeah, it was a little different than comic book, but at the same time, it was Marvel's first big film. I mean, they had done some movies in the early 90s that didn't do so well.
Yeah. And then after that, there was also the Hulk and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then they really didn't start diving into the rest of the comic book characters until about mid to late 2000s.
Yeah. The first 3 Spider-Man films did really well.
Oh, I've only seen the first 2. I never saw the third one. I've heard mixed reviews about it.
It's okay. Out of those 3, I mean, I like the first 2, but my favorite was definitely the second one. There's some good scenes in that one. And the first 3 X-Men films did well, and then Marvel just they hit something when they the Iron Man films.
Yeah, the Iron Man films really opened it up for the rest of them.
Yeah, and a lot of that, of course, has to do with Robert Downey Jr. doing such a great job in his part.
His character, I will say, was amazing.
Like I'm personally the comic book Iron Man and the comic book character I'm not that much of a fan of, but I like the films because of what Robert Downey brings to it.
Yeah.
He does a fantastic job. I mean, sitting here thinking like if they would have cast somebody else in that part, like I don't know, Matt Damon, those movies would have sucked.
Oh.
Or George Clooney or somebody else.
Oh God, I don't even want to hear about that.
Yeah. No matter how good the writer and the director is, they would have sucked.
They wouldn't have had that asshole sarcastic nature.
Yeah, there's just a certain quality that Robert Downey brings to that part.
Yeah.
And then and the second Hulk movie, the one with Edward Norton.
Yeah.
That one I really liked. Edward Norton did a great job at that. I'm disappointed that he's not going to be the Hulk anymore, not going to be Bruce Banner, but the guy that replaced him in the Avengers, I like too.
Yeah.
He's really good.
He actually portrayed Bruce pretty well as a timid scientist that doesn't really like to interact all that well because he knows that because of the Hulk, it's easy to bring him out and he doesn't want to be around a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. I agree with that. So, in Captain America, I like that film, and the Thor films. With the comic book films, like, I mean, it's got to be hard for these people in Hollywood to do them, because you got so many fans out there, and they're going to be so critical of these movies, and even if you're not a comic book fan, like, you're going to know certain stories.
Yeah.
Like Superman Returns. That movie was a crap fest. It was just long and boring and
the new Superman, to me, from what I've read and whatnot, it actually gave a decent background of why Superman was the way he was.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen that one yet, but like these origin stories, everybody knows, Superman was a baby, Krypton was blowing up, his parents sent him to Earth, landed in Kansas, he's raised by the Kents, became Superman. Batman's origin story, Bruce Wayne as a kid, his parents were killed, and
he had a vengeful mind, and he wanted to do something about it, about the low life of Gotham.
Yeah, and then the Hulk. Everybody knows Bruce Banner's origin story. He got hit by some gamma radiation. He gets pissed off. He becomes the Hulk. And now they've introduced, and same thing with Spider-Man. And then Peter Parker got bit by a radioactive spider. Blah blah blah. The rest is history. And now Marvel's introduced. They've introduced Thor. Which is a character that only fans of the Marvel Universe or comic book fans are familiar with. Anyone outside of that, that's just the Norse god of thunder.
And also, he's probably one of the only superheroes that doesn't have an alternate identity. He is who he is.
Yeah, he's just Thor.
Yeah, he doesn't have a civilian persona and a superhero persona.
Yeah.
He's always Thor, the Norse god.
And then another character that Marvel's done that with is Iron Man. He wasn't always this big character that him as today across the movies. He was just a character in the Marvel Comics universe that, if you're a fan, you're gonna read the comics and read the stories. If not, you're not. And then so they're doing a good job of introducing new characters from the Marvel universe, and also with like Hawkeye and Black Widow.
Actually makes me wonder if they're gonna do like their own movies for them.
That's a good question.
Give more of a background.
Yeah, I mean, first time we saw Black Widow was in the Iron Man films, and then put her in the Avengers. And the first time we saw Hawkeye was in the first Thor film. The scene where the shield's got the area where the hammer's at surrounded, and Thor goes in to try to get his hammer Mjolnir back, and there's that guy on the tower with the bow.
Yeah.
And that's all we saw of Hawkeye
in
that film. But it was cool to see. It's like a nice surprise. But I wouldn't mind seeing origin films for Black Widow and Hawkeye. I think that'd be cool. A way to introduce these,
to explain their dark past and see where they came from and why they're doing what they do now.
Yeah, I mean, because unless you're a really big Avengers fan or a fan of that character, you're not going to know that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The only thing is, are they going to be able to do it right?
Yeah, that's the other question.
I mean, if you're not a fan of them, you won't be able to tell. So probably either way, the movie's going to be good. But if you actually know those characters, you're going to be sitting there critiquing how they do the film.
Yeah, just like, for example, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a good film, but they tried to cram too much into it. Because again, that's a character that, unless you're a fan of the comic book itself, you're not going to really know who it is. And so they try to incorporate all this stuff that's from all these different Green Lantern stories into one film. I mean, we've talked about this before with Parallax. I don't think they should have included Parallax in that film.
Yeah.
Being that was like a villain that Hal Jordan fought way later on. And the first film, it should have just had Sinestro turn evil and Green Lantern
starting battle for that.
Yeah. Something more simpler, but they just include too much in it, and
well, you can't please everyone, so
yeah, I mean, and like we said, it's got to be hard for Hollywood to do these comic book films because there's so many stories for them to get ideas from, and there's just large fan base. I mean, even like we said before, Thor. As a kid, I might have read a few Thor comic books, but was it my favorite? No.
I, for the most part, would read Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he was a pretty badass superhero.
Yeah, for me it was Batman's my obvious favorite. I always read Batman, but there's other characters like Spider-Man. I like reading Spider-Man and Captain America. I like reading Captain America comics when I was a kid, and that's another one. Like I was a guy that read Captain America. Travis here might have maybe read a few issues, knew who the character was, but wasn't something he'd read on a monthly basis versus Spider-Man. And so Marvel, Hollywood had taken consideration, yeah, there's fans of this Captain America character, but there's not as many Captain America fans worldwide as, say...
There are Superman, Batman, or Spider-Man.
Yeah. So they did a really good job. People aren't going to be as critical on Captain America film versus Spider-Man film. But they did a great job with Captain America.
I was a little disappointed that after the first Captain America film, you really didn't hear much about Red Skull.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened to him? Did he die, or is he still planning something? Because just like Captain America, he's not going to age as quickly.
Yeah, and everyone knows from the comic books that Red Skull is a Captain America villain, but
are they going to show him in the new one? That I actually want to know.
Yeah, that's another good question. So there's 2 new movies coming out that got some questions to be answered. How did Xavier survive, and what happened to the Red Skull? Yeah. Hopefully we find out both of those answers. Mainly how Xavier survived.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it. Turns into little tiny particles and spreads across the screen.
Yeah.
What the hell? But yeah, there's been some good and bad out of all the comic book films.
Yeah. Everybody's gonna be nitpicky about something.
Yeah, exactly. Me being a really big Batman fan, at first when I saw the trailers for The Dark Knight Rises, and I saw Bane on the trailer, I'm like,
that's not how he looks.
That's no. And I actually saw the film. You never see Bane juice up and Hulk out.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I see why Zack Snyder did that. He wanted to show Bane is not just this big brute. He's actually a really smart villain. And they did that in the film, and I like that.
Granted, he was still really freaking strong.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just like in the comic books, he broke Batman's back. And that was cool. And then I really like, a lot of people talk bad about X-Men First Class. There's some things I didn't like about it, but I really liked how it explained the backstory of Magneto. That was my favorite part of that film, because Magneto's always been one of my favorite characters. Because he's not really a villain, even though he's fought the X-Men.
He has that is true, he is portrayed as one, but all he did was have a different way of going about things.
Yeah, he just had a different point of view than Xavier, and he's always an interesting character.
Well, they always had the same view, equal rights for mutants, same as humans, but it's how they went about them.
Yeah.
Xavier wanted to go about it in a peaceful, political way, and to show that mutants aren't all harmful or violent. They're actually helpful.
Yeah.
And that most of the time, they're everyday people that you see on the streets that you don't know. And Magneto wanted to go about it a forceful way to to have it where mutants were more superior, and he wanted them to know it. That way they'd have rights.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's true. I mean, it's
I can see how people would view that as being a bad guy, but they both had the same goal in him.
Yeah, and then in X-Men First Class, you get more of that backstory of Magneto when you learn why he is the way he is. I mean, the guy was he's a young Jewish boy that grew up in a Nazi concentration camp.
And was experimented on.
Yeah, he was experimented on. The Nazis killed his mother.
Yeah. That would harbor a lot of hate.
Yeah, I mean, so it's understandable why he is the way he is. And
whereas Xavier lived in a decent household.
Yeah.
And he was raised very proper.
Yeah, raised like very well-to-do kid.
And with X-Men Origins, had you not read any of the comics before, you would never have known that Mystique was pretty much like Xavier's sister.
That's actually something they just did for the movie.
Well, still,
It made
for an interesting twist.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like, whoa, what?
It added something, I think. Oh, that's another thing.
Well, it gave her a backstory though.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, they're not going to do a completely different story for her, because yeah, she was a good character, but she was really just a character that was used for like carrying out specific tasks.
Yeah.
She really had no like important role.
That's another character we saw in the preview for Days of Future Past was Mystique again.
It's a little older than X-Men Origins, but a little younger than the first X-Men.
Yeah, because like you said, we're not even sure what time period Wolverine travels back to. Looks like, I don't know, maybe like the 70s or 80s or something. I have no idea.
But it definitely looks like she's had a little more practice with her power and is getting a little better at it.
Yeah. And, there's the 2 upcoming movies. Should be coming out, I think the dates for like next year.
I think so. Probably like either summer to or winter of next year.
Yeah. So obviously, Avengers 2 is not coming out next year. Obviously, they're still working on that one. And rumors that we've heard about Avengers 2, they're introducing Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, which is the twin son and daughter of Magneto.
Would be very interesting.
Yeah. But anyway, that's it. It's Saturday. Enjoy your weekend. If you're not doing anything tonight, go see Thor 2: The Dark World. You'll enjoy it.
Yes.
And then after you watch this video, just search here on YouTube for a trailer for X-Men Days of Future Past and Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And leave in the comments. Let us know what you think of those trailers for that film and your expectations for them.